The quiet of the room carried only the faint whisper of a brush, sweeping across canvas. With each stroke, Alina's fingers breathed life into her painting, spreading blue, green, and crimson hues as though the air itself had turned fragrant with color. Lost in her work, she leaned closer, eyes fixed with unwavering focus, when the sudden creak of the door broke her rhythm. She turned quickly, and there stood Selma, smiling softly in the doorway. Alina's eyes lit up like lanterns in the dark. That innocent glow that always defined her face returned instantly. Dropping her brush and setting aside the palette, she sprang from her seat and rushed to Selma, throwing her arms around her as if they'd been apart for years. "Oh, Selma, I've been waiting for you forever," she exclaimed in her sing-song voice. "You called this morning and said you'd be here soon, and now you show up at night? Honestly, that's too much. Anyway, you won't believe it, I've painted something so beautiful for you that it'll leave you speechless. Come, I'll show you right now." Selma laughed gently at her friend's childlike enthusiasm, squeezing her hand as she replied with warmth. "Yes, I know. My brother had to step out for urgent work, which is why it took us so long to get here. But your painting can wait until later. First, come downstairs. Your husband and mother-in-law are here too. You should greet them before anything else." Alina blinked as if only just remembering. "Oh, right. Auntie's here too, isn't she?" she said quickly. Selma nodded. Without hesitation, Alina pulled her scarf over her head, her voice still colored with excitement. "All right, let's meet everyone first. After that, I'll finally show you my painting in peace. You don't even know how much I've been looking forward to this moment. I even bought things for your wedding already. Jewelry, shoes, everything. Wait until you see the dresses. They'll take your breath away." Selma nudged her playfully on the shoulder, her eyes dancing with mischief. "Were you waiting for me," she teased, "or for your husband? And as for all that shopping, I'm afraid it's going to be wasted. My brother's bringing outfits of his own choosing for you. And you know he won't accept anything else." The air inside the sitting room had grown heavy as the conversation deepened. Selma's mother leaned forward, her voice calm yet determined. "I want her to come with me. I only need your permission," she insisted. "No one else will step in to erase my troubles. Selma also deserves a companion, someone she can confide in, someone her own age who can understand her heart. Who else can shop with her, laugh with her, and carry her burdens? This is about family, not outsiders. Darim is her husband, after all, and Sikandar, her uncle. Nothing improper here." Akhtar straightened against the back of his chair, his tone sharp as he cut in. "Sister-in-law, this isn't right. Even if the marriage contract is signed, the send-off hasn't happened yet. Having her live with you now, before the proper ceremony, it won't sit well. People will talk. They'll say she moved in before the wedding was complete. And you know how cruel tongues can be. They'll invent scandals out of thin air. I won't allow my daughter's life to be ruined because of reckless gossip." A faint edge of sternness crossed Shabina's face as she answered firmly, "Akhtar, today I'm not sitting here as her aunt. I'm here as her mother-in-law, and I will take her with me. My home is full of burdens I can't carry alone. I need her beside me. She is the only one I can rely on. She is both a daughter of this family and the bride of mine. It's her duty to stand with us now. So please stop wasting my time with fears of what people will say. Let them talk. We don't live for people. We live to build our home. And building a home always demands sacrifice." The silence that followed was suffocating. Alina's fingers twisted at the edge of her scarf, her heart hammering in her chest. Darim's bold, unflinching gaze only made her unease grow heavier. Shabnam looked from her husband to Shabina, her tone softening the air. "All right, Shabina. If you truly need her, then take her. I trust you'll care for her as your own. My daughter is obedient and kind. She won't cause you trouble. She'll be your support in every way. You've made the right choice, and I know you'll never regret it." Alina felt her heart sink at those words. She turned toward her father, searching for some unspoken refusal, but his silence told her otherwise. The look on Akhtar's face revealed his unwillingness, yet bound by his wife's insistence and the weight of circumstances, he swallowed his protest. He knew his younger brother's temperament all too well, and that knowledge gnawed at his nerves. But in the end, he chose silence over confrontation. Alina's pulse raced faster, every beat echoing her dread. Meanwhile, Shabina's tone carried an air of quiet triumph as she added, "Shabnam, you always understand relationships so well. That's exactly why I've wanted Alina in our home, because she's your daughter. I know I can always rely on the respect you give my words. Now, child," she turned toward Alina with a firm but gentle command, "go and get ready. We'll be leaving soon. Alina's eyes darted nervously toward her parents, but no words came. Quietly, she slipped away toward her room. Half an hour later, after packing, everyone climbed into the car and set off. Inside, the atmosphere grew heavy, as if an invisible weight pressed against them. Outside, the evening light spilled across the narrow streets, but inside the vehicle, silence lingered like a storm cloud. Daram sat at the wheel with rigid authority, his hands gripping the steering tight. Yet every few moments, his gaze flicked up to the rearview mirror, studying the back seat. Beside him, Shabina sat in silence, already well aware of her son's hard-edged nature. In the back, Alina and Selma huddled close together. Selma's head was bowed, her scarf loose across her face, her figure draped in a black cloak. Alina, however, clutched her shawl tightly around herself, her face pale with fear. For reasons she could never explain, Daram's presence always left her unsettled. Each time his sharp eyes caught hers in the mirror, her heart seemed to stumble inside her chest. Then, without warning, his deep voice shattered the quiet. His eyes locked with Alina's through the mirror as he spoke, his tone edged with command. "Women of this family leave the house fully covered," he said, "the way my sister does. I don't ever want to see a flimsy scarf or a light wrap again. Mother, tell her clearly I won't tolerate it. If I do, she won't escape my anger. I've noticed this too many times already. I've held back before, but not anymore. From now on, I never want to see her outside without proper covering." The steel in his words made Alina flinch. She instinctively tightened her scarf, wrapping it around herself as though it might shield her from his piercing stare. Shabina quickly stepped in, her voice soft but firm. "Oh, Daram, where does she even have to go? Straight from the house to this car, and now from here to our home. She isn't strolling through markets or wandering the streets. If she ever does, then scold her as you like. But right now, such harshness isn't needed." Daram pressed his lips into a thin line, glaring at his mother for a brief second before speaking again, his voice colder than before. "Whether she goes out or not doesn't matter. Women belong behind the veil. That's how our family lives, and that's how it will remain. I went against my father's will to marry her. If she refuses to follow my principles, you know what I'm capable of. I won't hesitate for a second. I've already carried the burden of my father's anger for this marriage. If she doesn't respect it, then my reaction will be severe." His features tightened, every word dripping with fury, his eyes burning as though fire might leap from them. Alina kept her gaze lowered, but inside her chest a storm raged. Her heartbeat raced out of control, her palms damp with sweat. Selma reached over quietly and slipped her hand into Alina's, giving a gentle squeeze. The silent gesture carried both comfort and helplessness, as if saying, "Stay calm, don't be afraid. I'm right here beside you." Shabina tried again, her tone steady and resolute this time. "Enough, son. Don't worry, she won't give you any reason to complain. Isn't that right, Alina? I'll explain it to her myself." Startled, Alina lifted her tear-brimmed eyes toward her mother-in-law, then quickly lowered her head. Her voice barely came out, faint and strangled. "Yes." Daram glanced at her once more in the mirror, a thin, mocking smile curling across his lips as though satisfied with his victory. Then he turned his focus back to the road. The car fell silent again, broken only by the low growl of the engine and the soft hum of the tires on asphalt. In that silence, a new seed of fear had been sown deep inside Alina's heart. Alina sat quietly, her restlessness cloaked in silence. Outside, the world went on with its usual rhythm, cars passing, people absorbed in their own lives. But inside that house, a different journey had begun, one carrying the weight of fear, rigid principles, and unspoken tension. The night dragged on, its stillness pressing heavier with every tick of the clock. In one corner of the room, a dim bulb spread a pale glow across the walls. Mr. Akhtar sat on the bed, with a newspaper in hand, though his eyes kept drifting to the same line over and over. His heart was unsettled. Moments later, the door creaked open. Mrs. Shabnam entered with a glass of warm milk, setting it gently on the table. Before she could speak, Akhtar lowered the newspaper with a sharp motion. "What have you done, Shabnam?" he snapped. "Who told you to agree in front of everyone like that? Do you have any idea how fragile things are these days?" She paused, unfazed, and replied with calm firmness. "Why are you so upset? You act as if you don't see what's happening. Can't you understand what your sister-in-law is really trying to do? Our daughter loves Daram. She wants to be with him. Why do you keep resisting this? I can't make sense of your objections." A shadow of worry flashed across Akhtar's face. His voice rose. "You don't understand, Shabnam. Our daughter is still so young, barely stepping into womanhood. And Duram? He's a grown man, full of impulses. Who knows what he might do or when? We can't be everywhere at once. What if something goes wrong behind closed doors? Do you realize the consequences? Her honor is everything to me. Shabnam went quiet for a beat. Then she spoke again, her tone softer but edged with determination. Akhtar, 10 years have passed since this marriage contract was signed. She was only 8 when we gave her to him. Yet to this day, they haven't taken her home. Now your sister-in-law says to wait another year? My heart tells me your brother will never truly agree to this match. I'm terrified that, in the end, their son will divorce my daughter. Akhtar turned to his wife in disbelief. What are you saying, Shabnam? Think carefully before you speak. Lowering her gaze, she admitted quietly. Yes, I sent Alina with them on purpose. Please don't interfere. You don't see what I see. I'm praying that a bond forms between her and Duram, that once they're close, his family will have no choice but to complete the marriage and send her off properly. Akhtar's voice trembled with anguish. Shabnam, how can you think this way? My brother may despise me, but we share the same blood. He would never allow harm to come to my daughter. She shook her head, her eyes hard with conviction. That's only your illusion, Akhtar. I know them too well. Times like these don't allow blind trust. Your brother's pride and stubbornness are clear. He doesn't want this relationship to succeed. I'm not speaking out of spite. It's the truth. The room grew heavier, the silence pressing down. Akhtar exhaled deeply, his face etched with helplessness. You're exaggerating. If this marriage is meant to work, God himself will open the path. Why are you rushing things? Shabnam set the glass of milk on the table, her voice low but resolute. Because waiting often means losing. If you won't act, then let me. I can't just sit still and gamble my daughter's future. Akhtar lowered his eyes, falling into silence. His quiet felt like an invisible wound spreading through the room. He knew his wife's fears carried weight, yet his heart refused to accept them. The only sound was the ticking clock, marking their unspoken torment. Between a mother's desperation and a father's dread, the future of their daughter seemed to slip further out of their grasp. By dawn, the sun rose in all its brilliance, pouring golden light through half-open curtains. Alina had overslept. She rushed downstairs after washing her face in haste. But the moment her eyes met the scene in the lounge, her steps faltered. Duram sat upright on the sofa, his expression carved in stone. Auntie Selma held a teacup, watching Alina with quiet disdain. And Mr. Sikandar, his temper already simmering, glared over his newspaper. Alina offered a soft greeting, her voice trembling. The reply she received was cold, perfunctory, doing nothing to ease the heavy air. Slamming the paper onto the table, Sikandar barked, "So this is your idea of a suitable bride, Selma? Look at her. It's nearly 11 and she's just waking up. In our home, no woman lies in bed past 7. Alina's heart plummeted. Her lips quivered, but she couldn't speak. Backing his father, Duram turned with a hard edge to his voice. He's right, Baba. This all comes down to her upbringing. If her own mother never taught her discipline, how can she ever follow our rules? Selma added with a thin smile. I even warned her last night to rise early. But perhaps this is simply how things are done in her household. Alina's voice shook. I didn't realize the time. If someone had woken me... She didn't finish. Sikandar cut her off, his words sharp as a whip. Shameless. Now you blame your mother-in-law? This is exactly the problem with today's girls. In our family, the daughters-in-law obey the house rules. No excuses. Women like you never last 6 months in a marriage. Before running back to their fathers' homes with a divorce decree, dragging the family's name through the mud. Tears welled in Alina's eyes, her heart pounding in her chest. Alina stood frozen, her body trembling as though her very bones had turned fragile. She kept her head lowered, lips sealed, breath quick and uneven. Auntie Selma exhaled a weary sigh, her gaze resting heavily on the girl. Alina, you must understand, this isn't an ordinary household. The rules here are strict. Respecting elders, guarding traditions, keeping to modesty, and above all, discipline. Only then can you hold your place here. Alina's reply was barely audible. Yes. And then she fell silent again. Before Mr. Sikandar could add more, Selma entered the room with an almost serene air. But the moment her eyes landed on Alina's frightened face, her expression softened. She hurried to her side. Thank goodness you're here. Come on, let's get you some breakfast, then we'll go shopping. Mama, I'll take Alina with me. Duram's voice cut through like a blade. There's no need for that. She's a daughter-in-law now. She belongs in this house, not roaming around the markets. If you want to go, go alone or take a servant. She doesn't leave this house. Selma blinked at her brother in disbelief. But she just arrived. Quiet, Duram snapped. His eyes shifted back to Alina. Go start preparing lunch. Do you even know how to cook? Her hands shook as she nodded. Duram let out a long breath, turned his back, and dismissed her entirely. Mr. Sikandar's tone carried more regret than anger, but his words pierced like a knife. My parents made a grave mistake before they died, and now we carry the weight of it. This girl will never bring honor to our family. One day she'll only bring us shame. With that, he rose, his footsteps echoing as he left the room. The silence that followed was suffocating. Alina felt herself stiffen like stone, the sting of their words still fresh against her heart. Selma quietly reached for her hand, squeezing it in comfort, though her own eyes shimmered with helpless tears. The air in the lounge grew heavy, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the cruelty spoken aloud. A little later, the sound of clattering dishes filled the kitchen. Alina stood at the sink, her head bowed, eyes brimming. Soap bubbles clung to her delicate fingers, but the ache in her chest made every movement feel like a punishment. Tears spilled freely, sliding down to mix with the water and disappear in the suds. Her breaths came in uneven bursts, as though the sorrow pressing inside her chest had stolen the rhythm of her lungs. Selma's quiet steps entered behind her. Concern clouded her face, though there was a flicker of restrained irritation too. She stopped at Alina's side. What on earth was that in the lounge just now? What were they saying to you? Alina lifted her face, her lashes wet, her voice trembling. Selma, why doesn't Uncle Sikandar like me? I'm his niece. I always heard uncles adored their nieces. Then why does he look at me with such contempt? He isn't the only one. Duram despises me too. Everyone in this house treats me as if I'm nothing but a burden. Only you and Auntie don't. Her words broke into sobs. Selma drew a long breath, placed a hand gently on her cousin's shoulder, and said softly, Alina, you need to understand. His issue isn't with you, it's with your mother. Alina's eyes widened in confusion. Selma continued, explaining slowly, in our family, marriages always stayed within the clan, just like yours with Duram. But your father broke that tradition. He married your mother, a woman from outside our bloodline, outside our circle. She came here of her own will, against everyone's wishes. That scar never healed for my father. In his eyes, you carry her blood. That's why he can't bring himself to accept you. More tears welled in Alina's eyes. Her voice cracked. But what about Duram? He doesn't care for me either. Today he said such cruel things. I came here for you, Selma, for you, but everyone else tears me down. Maybe it would be better if I just went back. Selma spun toward her sharply, her tone suddenly firm. Don't you ever say that again. If my brother hears you speak like that, he'll treat you even harsher. And Baba, he's always waiting for a chance to humiliate you. Until I'm married, you can't leave this house. Mark my words, Alina. The girl lowered her head again, her shoulders trembling, but she stayed silent. Selma studied her quiet suffering and softened. Enough tears for now, sit down. I'll make breakfast and feed my little doll myself. But Alina shook her head quickly. No, Selma, I'm not hungry. Let me just finish these dishes and then start lunch. Please, just give me a little help later. Selma's patience cracked. You stubborn girl. I said sit down. Eat first. You can't possibly manage all this work on an empty stomach. Alina obeyed quietly, dragging her feet toward the dining table before lowering herself into a chair. The kitchen had grown hushed now, save for the faint hiss from the stove and the soft clatter of dishes as Selma put them away. Her chest still throbbed with unease, but the sympathy woven into Selma's words had offered a fragile thread of comfort. She missed her mother fiercely, yet here she was, powerless, caught in a current she couldn't control. Time slipped by too quickly, and the night pressed its calm into every corner of the kitchen. In the dim glow of the overhead light, the sound of cutlery rang sharp and clear. Fatigue weighed down her eyes. Sorrow pressed heavy on her chest. She stood before the marble sink, suds glistening over her hands. Tears slipped down her cheeks, sometimes mingling with the soap, sometimes streaking her neck. Each dish she scrubbed felt like a feeble attempt to wash away her grief. Then she sensed it, someone's presence behind her. Her pulse stuttered wildly. She spun around in alarm. At the doorway stood Duram, arms folded, gaze dark and penetrating. Suspicion and anger burned in his eyes. The dish slipped from her hands, clattering back into the sink. Startled, she stammered, You're here? Durham stepped forward slowly, his voice deep, measured. What are you doing in here so late? Her reply tumbled out in a rush. I was just tidying up the kitchen. Auntie said everything should be cleaned before bed. The guests just left a while ago, so there were a lot of dishes. His eyes lingered on her with an unsettling intensity before he spoke again. You were crying this afternoon. Alina's head dropped quickly, shaking in denial. But her trembling lips and reddened eyes betrayed her. Durham moved closer. Reflexively, she stepped back. But the next second, she found herself trapped between the wall and his arms. He had caged her in. You only know how to lie, he murmured, voice low and dangerous. Her head shook again, tears brimming in her eyes. Suddenly, his arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him. The heat of his breath brushed her face, making her heart pound in chaos. Never even think of betraying me, he warned. Voice cold, words cutting like a blade. I'm not Sikandar Khanzada who forgave his brother's treachery. I'm Durham Khanzada. If my wife deceives me, I'll kill her. Her tears spilled freely now. Through a broken whisper, she pleaded, But why would I betray you? You're my husband. A bitter smile tugged at his lips. Remember that always. Because after what your mother did, no one trusts you. Not even me. Pain deepened in her eyes. She longed to speak, but words stuck in her throat. Durham caught the shimmering drops in her lashes, brushing them away with his thumb, though his gaze remained cold, merciless. Take care of Selma, he said quietly. And don't give father a single reason to complain. Do that, and your life might stay bearable. But if you cross me, I'll make sure you breathe only when I allow it. Do you understand? With that, he stepped back abruptly and left the room, his footsteps echoing down the long corridor until they faded into silence. Alina stayed rooted in place, tears streaming unchecked across her face. She wiped them away with the back of her hand, but the ache in her chest refused to lift. The clink of dishes rose again, but now the kitchen felt heavier, as though even her chores carried the weight of her misery. A full week had passed since she arrived here. The house buzzed with celebration, drums thumping, laughter echoing, women's songs weaving through the halls. The city house brimmed with guests, the air rich with aromas from the kitchen, every corner alive with chatter. Exhausted, Alina slipped out of the kitchen, only to bump into Selma rushing toward her. Breathless, Selma exclaimed, Mom said all the rooms are packed. Even my room is stuffed with 3 cousins. She wants you to sleep in my brother's room tonight, okay? She was about to whirl away when Alina, panic flashing across her face, grabbed her wrist. Her voice quivered. No, Selma. Please, not in his room. I'll sleep in the lounge instead. Selma instantly shook her head, irritation flickering. Are you crazy? The lounge is full of boys sleeping on the floor. You can't stay there. It's a wedding house. Things are messy. Just deal with it. Then softening, she added with a faint smile. I don't know why Mom decided to start the drum circle tonight of all nights, inviting every relative in sight. There's still more than a month. And a half until the wedding, Selma muttered quickly, tugging at her dupatta as if she were already late. Anyway, just go to my brother's room. I don't have time for this. Everyone's waiting for me. Fear deepened in Alina's eyes. Her voice came out in a shaky whisper. No, Selma, please. Don't send me in there. How could you even suggest that? How am I supposed to sleep beside him? Selma stopped, turned back, and gave her a long, measured look. Then her tone softened. Why not? He's your husband, Alina. It's your right to be with him. Besides, he's probably already asleep. Just lie down quietly. He won't even notice. Alina's lips trembled. But what if he gets angry? What if... Her voice faltered, swallowed by the knot in her throat. Selma cut her off, speaking more firmly now. Listen, don't start making a scene. Dad made me promise to talk sense into you. You're not sleeping outside. The house is overflowing with guests, boys too. Mom said the same thing. If you want peace for yourself and for me, then you'll sleep in his room. That's final. At dawn, you can come out. No one will even know. Alina felt as though her feet had sunk into the ground. Her chest fluttered restlessly, breath uneven, while laughter and bursts of light spilling through the hallway doorway made the dread inside her grow heavier. Selma, I'm so afraid, she whispered brokenly. Selma cupped her cheek, coaxing gently. Don't be scared. Brother won't say anything. He'll be fast asleep. Just lie down, rest. Everything will be fine with time. Then she hurried back toward the women gathered around the drum, their voices rising in cheerful songs. For a long moment, Alina stood rooted in the corridor, torn apart by a storm of thoughts. If she refused, questions would be endless. If she obeyed, she would have to wrestle with her own fear. Confusion marked her face, moisture pooled in her eyes. Each hesitant step toward his door felt like a mountain pressing down on her chest. The corridor lights glowed dimly, the steady beat of the drum echoing faintly from the distance, syncing with her racing heart. At last she found herself at Durham's door, trembling hand brushing the latch. Should she go in or run away? One part of her urged forward, another pulled back. But retreat wasn't an option either. She felt like a prisoner shoving herself into her own cell. Moments later, she slipped inside. The silence of the room was so complete it seemed even the walls held their breath. Outside, the drumbeats had dulled, but inside, another storm was waiting to erupt. Nervously, she sat at the edge of the bed, heart pounding so violently she was sure the quiet room would expose her fear. She shut her eyes, trying to disappear into stillness. But suddenly, she jolted. Durham's arms had locked around her, firm and unyielding. Her eyes flew open wide, panic crashing through her as she tried to struggle. But his grip only tightened. His mouth lowered near her ear, voice deep and commanding. "Don't make noise. Tonight, wife, I'm claiming my right." Her face drained of color. Her lips trembled as she begged, "Let me go." "What's wrong with you? The wedding send-off hasn't even happened yet. Why are you doing this now?" A bitter smile twisted on his lips. "That excuse again? Rukhsati. How long do you expect me to wait?" 10 years, Alina. 10 years since we signed the marriage papers. I've waited long enough. Tonight I won't wait anymore. Mother sent you to me for this very reason, so I can finally have you. She pressed both hands against his chest, pushing desperately. "No, you can't force me. If I give in, how will I ever face my parents? They trusted me when they sent me here. I won't betray that trust." For a moment, anger flashed in his eyes like lightning. His voice dropped, sharp and dangerous. "I'm not your boyfriend, not your fiancé. I'm your husband. And when a husband demands his wife, it isn't a sin. So stop this nonsense and be quiet." Tears welled in her eyes. "It's because you're my husband that I'm saying this," she whispered. Marriage is built on trust, not on force. His patience was thinning. He leaned closer, voice tightening. "If you hate this so much, then divorce me. Let me marry someone else and build the life I've been waiting for. I'm 27 now, and still my mother says wait another year. Tell me, is this fair?" Her voice cracked as she echoed his word. "Divorce? That's your solution?" She shook her head, trembling. "If you truly believe that, then what's left between us?" His features hardened. "There are only two choices. Give me what I want, or this marriage ends tonight. Decide." Alina drew in a shaky breath. Her voice quivered, but her eyes held quiet strength. "I'm not afraid of you, Durham. I'm afraid of breaking my father's faith in me. If you force me, you'll have my body, but my heart will be lost to you forever. Our marriage will be nothing more than ink on paper." For a brief second, he faltered, loosening his grip. Yet the hunger in his eyes still burned, restless and consuming. His voice was thick, bitter. "Don't push me, Alina. You know father will never allow our rukhsati. This chaos is all his doing. Don't make me lose control tonight." Her tear-filled gaze met his. His next words came out like a vow, low and desperate. "I don't want talk anymore. I want my right, tonight." "I can't," she whispered, trembling. "Not now. Please, I'm so afraid." But he ignored her pleas. His touch descended on her with a fierce intensity, like relentless rain crashing against fragile glass. She tried to resist. Hands pushing, tears spilling, fear shaking through her bones. But his insistence pressed harder, drowning her in its force. His lips brushed hers, his breath surrounded her, relentless. Her body trembled with terror. Her heart cried for mercy. Yet little by little her struggle weakened, like a fragile flame smothered by a storm. At last, in a moment of broken surrender, she closed her eyes, defeated, as though a captive resigning herself to shackles she could never escape. That night, she became his, entirely, helplessly, irrevocably. Time moved forward with cruel indifference. Days bled into weeks, weeks into a month and a half. Now, after the wedding send-off, the lounge glowed faintly with soft light. Guests were trickling back home, footsteps echoing, jewelry chiming, laughter scattering in the air. Alina moved among them, serving glasses of water, her face marked with exhaustion, but her sense of duty keeping her upright. She had just extended a glass toward Sikandar Sahib when darkness clouded her vision. Her knees buckled and the glass slipped from her grasp. Gasps rose as the glass shattered. From his mother's side of the room, Durham shot up instantly, his voice sharp with alarm. "Alina!" He rushed forward, catching her in his arms just as she collapsed. Her lashes closed, her breathing uneven, her body limp. "That's exactly what I wanted," he said firmly, his tone carrying the weight of certainty. "And it's what my mother wished for, too. That's why I came straight to you on purpose." Alina froze in place, her steps rooted to the floor. Her lips trembled as she stammered, "What do you mean?" "You came to me intentionally?" Before she could back away, Durham caught both her hands, locking them securely in his grasp. Her pulse raced as he leaned closer, speaking with quiet intensity. "It means," he whispered, "that I love you. Alina, you've been my wife for 10 years now, bound to me by marriage, but I never once said these words. I kept them buried because I wanted to speak them after our official wedding ceremony. Now I can't hold them back." Her eyes welled with startled tears. "Then why now? Why say it suddenly?" Durham's chest rose and fell with a heavy sigh. A shadow darkened his face. "Because my father had other plans. You know the history because of your mother. My father never married Aunt Neelam, the woman he loved. Our grandfather had decided both his sons would marry their cousins. But your father ran away with another woman and everything collapsed. Since then, my father has carried a burning resentment for your family." Alina's breath caught in her throat. "So then, why me?" His gaze hardened. "Because he never wanted you to have a home with us. His plan was to let years pass with you tied to me on paper, and then toss you aside with a divorce. That was all you were meant for. But my mother and I saw it coming. We made a choice. We wouldn't let that happen. We decided to protect you. That's why all of this was arranged the way it was. Otherwise, there'd be no reason to bring you here so quickly." Alina felt as if a crushing weight had been lifted, only to be replaced with a tangle of confusion. Her voice came out hushed and shaky. "And now, what do you want me to do?" Durham's grip tightened around her hands, his eyes searching hers. "Just this, stand beside me. Show everyone that you accept this marriage as your choice. Pretend nothing was forced. I only need your trust." A single tear slipped down her cheek. She whispered, "Do you truly love me?" Durham cupped her face with a trembling hand, his eyes shining with raw sincerity. "With everything in me. You are my heart, Alina, my whole world." For the first time, a faint smile flickered across her lips. She lowered her head, her thundering heartbeat softening into something steady, almost peaceful. Standing there hand in hand, she felt as if her choice had already been made. Whatever came next, she would no longer face it alone. The silence in the room shifted. It wasn't suffocating anymore. It was strangely soothing. Later, the living room carried a different kind of stillness, broken only by the steady tick of the clock. Sikandar's eyes burned with contempt as he shot a look at his brother. "See, Akhtar? This is the kind of behavior your daughter has shown. We came here to prepare for a wedding, but she had her own agenda. This is what your wife's teaching has produced. Shameful." Akhtar's face flushed with fury as he pushed himself upright. "If my daughter has done something, was your son just sitting idly by? He's her husband. Don't paint him as an angel while throwing all the dirt on her." The air thickened with rising tension until Durham suddenly rose to his feet. His expression was steel, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Enough," he thundered. "Don't you dare question my wife's character. This is between the two of us, no one else. What's best for everyone now is to discuss her departure with dignity. The rest isn't your concern." Sikandar bristled, ready to erupt, but Akhtar's eyes drifted to his daughter. His gaze was heavy, silently demanding an answer. Alina's chest heaved as her nerves rattled, but she summoned every ounce of courage she had. Her voice trembled, yet her words carried unshakable truth. "Father, I'm ready. We both chose this. We love each other." Her declaration quivered with emotion, but her eyes shone with undeniable honesty. Durham turned toward her at once, and for the first time that night, a quiet smile spread across his face. His gaze softened, filled with relief and peace. Alina felt as if her small victory had shaken the room, but her father's stern voice cut through the air. "Stay quiet, Alina," Mr. Akhtar snapped. "This is not your place to speak." Before she could retreat, Durham shot back, his tone sharp with conviction. "And why shouldn't she speak? She's part of this marriage. She has every right to defend it. And father, you need to face the truth. You nearly destroyed her life. You wanted me to divorce her." For a brief moment, Mr. Sikandar's face stiffened, caught between anger and doubt. His silence betrayed the storm inside him. Durham's voice softened but carried an unshakable edge. I'm happy with my wife. We've already begun our life together. Soon I'll host our reception, but right now she's weak and needs rest. What she doesn't need is to be torn down emotionally. That's why I'm taking her to our apartment. She deserves peace, not torment. Sikandar's anger flared again. Are you out of your mind? You're not going anywhere. You'll stay here with us. Durham drew in a deep breath, his eyes steady with resolve. If you truly want me to stay, then accept her as your daughter-in-law. Treat her with the dignity she deserves. Stand beside us or we'll walk away. I won't let anyone dishonor her. His words landed like hammers in the quiet room, leaving everyone stunned. The fury on Sikandar's face slowly softened, as if melting under the weight of his son's defiance. He knew Durham too well. Once his son made up his mind, nothing could shake him. Mr. Akhtar's eyes glistened as he looked at his daughter, standing tall yet fragile beside her husband. In that moment, years of tension seemed to shatter. The two brothers hesitated, then stepped forward, embracing at last. Alina's tears spilled freely, her gaze locking on Durham's. He reached for her hand and held it firmly, his smile carrying both warmth and certainty. It's going to be all right now, he whispered gently. Alina lowered her head with a quiet smile, her fingers tightening around his. Their hearts felt lighter, steady, as if peace itself had settled between them. The atmosphere of the room transformed. What had been poisoned with pride and resentment only moments earlier was now filled with forgiveness, love, and unity. After all, digging up the past only leaves wounds raw, while choosing peace allows healing to begin.